done something that's making it difficult for me to think straight. My husband wants a divorce from me now because I got carried away with his father at our annual New Year's party. In fact, I think I've done something stupid, and I'm now facing the consequences of it. I'm not even going to try to make myself look good or seek validation because there's absolutely nothing I'll say that will not paint me out as a good person at all. I've messed up big time and I'm 100% aware of it. I just need help from you all. I'll take any help I can get. I just want to make sure that I can get this whole thing fixed. My name is Brianna, and I'm a 29 years old accountant. I'm married to Luke, a 30-year-old accountant. Yes, my husband and I are accountants, and you can very well say that it's our mutual careers that brought us together. We met at a function together and got interested in each other. I loved his personality and charisma a lot, and for the first time, I broke my rule of never wanting to date a man that does the same thing I do. I never wanted to date someone that has the same profession as me because I just felt like it will make us disagree a lot, and there'll be no time because we'll be engaged in different activities. But I had no choice, ladies and gentlemen, lol. I got charmed by Luke, and I forgot all about my rule. In fact, I didn't think we'd last at first. I thought it would just be a fling because I didn't think Luke was ready to settle down. At least I'll speak for myself when I say that I wasn't ready to settle down yet. I'd been single for 6 months before I started dating Luke, and I never imagined getting married to him 2 years later. But it happened, and we got married and never looked back. Well, we never looked back until now. Now, I think I'm losing my husband, and that's just me hanging on to an invisible thread of hope. I feel like I've lost him already. What hurts me the most is that his father is involved. Luke hates his father, and now I've screws up. The name of Luke's father is Adrian, and he's 48 years old. He had Luke when he was just 18 years old. He met Luke's mother, Nancy, when they were in high school, and they dated till their final year of high school. But Nancy got pregnant just after they were done with high school. They were both 18 years old, but they were still naive. Nancy's mother was sent out of her home and forced to live with Adrian. They basically started a family immediately. Nancy couldn't go to college, but Adrian was able to go. Long story short, Adrian cheated on Nancy 2 years after she gave birth to Luke. They broke up, and Adrian never bothered seeing Luke again till he was in college. Luke was never ready to accept his father back into his life because his mother always told him how he left her. Adrian always tried getting back into Luke's life, but Luke promised never to betray his mother. So, I hope you guys now understand why what I did is a very big deal. Luke cannot stand seeing me, and he's very upset. But wait, before you start judging me, let me make it clear that I didn't have an affair with Luke's father. I would never, and I have never. It's disgusting and stupid, and I never did that. It's just that something happened at our New Year party, and I'm on the verge of losing my husband. Luke and I have been married for 2 years now, and we always find time to attend the New Year's celebration Nancy throws. Nancy is now married to another man, and he's the one that stepped up to be Luke's father. He's quite rich, so he likes to throw a New Year's party every year. Luke always makes sure he never misses it, and even while we were dating, he always invited me. I think I've gone to a total of 4 New Year's parties with him. The first one I went as his friend, the second one as his girlfriend, and the third and fourth one as his wife. But now, I don't think I can make it to the 5th New Year's party. I don't think Luke will stay married to me till then. There's usually no drama at each New Year party, but this year's own was immensely exceptional. There was a lot of drama, and I'm still shocked at how things just escalated all of a sudden. I'm writing this to you all barely 24 hours after the New Year's party. Writing is my way of venting and keeping my emotions in check, so when I found myself in this compromising situation, I decided to write as my way of letting off some steam. The drama started from Adrian's sudden presence at the New Year's party. Yes, you actually read that right. He suddenly showed up at the New Year's party. Luke and I were shocked, but Luke was the one I was really worried for. He always told me how much he hated his father and despised his presence. I know the pain he feels anytime the topic of his father's betrayal is brought up. I'm sure any man that didn't even grow up to see his father would feel the same. Whenever he told me stories about his father, I never tried to convince him to forgive him. I never tried playing the devil's advocate because I know the man I married would never hate someone without a valid reason. That's why I know that for him to ask for a divorce, I screwed up, and I'm not denying that. I'm at fault and I'm wrong for getting carried away. I never should have done something to upset Luke so much. I would have felt better if it was somebody else. I despise myself for hurting him through his father. If I knew this would happen, I would have taken another decision that day. But I guess if wishes were horses, beggars would fly as high as they wanted. Before the New Year's party, Adrian had always been showing up whenever he wanted. He always did that before. But whenever he came, the gatekeeper always took care of him. Luke didn't even have to see him most times. He just got to know from his mother that Adrian showed up. Before I go on, I'd like to describe Adrian as the perfect definition of an opportunist and selfish bastard. I hate him with every living fiber in me, and I believe that he should never be happy after what he'd done that day. I'm at fault for falling in his trap, but that doesn't mean I'll not wish that his karma finds him. He left his family, but never expected them to end up getting successful. So he came back years later and thought it was best to ruin their lives all over again. I never really had an encounter with him before. I'd only seen him once, and that was when he gate deadhead our wedding event. That was the only time I'd seen him, but I always recognized him from the pictures that were hung on Nancy's gate. It was so her gatekeeper could recognize him and never let him in. He was only able to get into the New Year's party because the gatekeeper had been on leave as he traveled to go celebrate the New Year's with his own family. It was someone else that had been tending to the gate, and the person had not been careful enough to take notes of the faces coming in. Adrian used that opportunity to get into the party. On that particular day, Luke and I had a very intense argument. If you're wondering how intense our argument was, it was actually very intense, and we almost didn't attend the party. We were having an argument about trying to have a child. Luke was ready, and I wasn't ready because I was being considered for promotion at work. I knew that getting pregnant would automatically mean that I wouldn't get the promotion again, so that made me very worried. I've always wanted children, but I thought that we had time, and there was no need to rush. I didn't want to rush into it and end up resenting myself and blaming other people for my choices. I also love my job a lot, and I've always worked hard so I could get promoted and just feel like my hard work helped me get something. That's why I wanted to wait till I had my promotion for about a year before we tried having children. My decision made Luke very angry because he felt like he had given me enough time. In his defense, he's actually right, because before we got married, we agreed to try having children 2 years after our marriage. I thought my promotion would come a little later, but then I was surprised when I was told I was on the list. That's why I told Luke to wait a little longer, but he wasn't having it. Our argument lasted close to an hour, and we never came to any reasonable resolution. We were in no position to attend a party, but because Luke always promised his mother that he'd never miss any of those parties, we had to keep that promise and go. We didn't speak to each other throughout the car ride, and even when we got to the venue, we ignored each other. I've never been known to handle my alcohol. In fact, it's common knowledge among his family and mine that I'm a very bad drinker, but because of how angry and irritated I'd been, I had too many shots. I don't even know what was mixed in those drinks, but I just took anything the waiter had in his tray. I felt comfortable drinking because I believed that I was safe in Nancy's house with Luke around. I knew almost all the faces that attended the party, and even though Luke and I were not in speaking terms, I still believed that I had no reason to worry. It was an annual New Year's party that I'd attended 4 times in a row. I didn't think I'd see someone that would want to take advantage of my drunken state. So, barely 30 minutes after drinking, I had to run to the toilet to puke. I'd drank too much and was having a hard time standing up straight. I didn't see Luke around, and I was afraid of puking in front of everyone, so I went alone. Before I got back to the party, I stumbled upon Adrian. I still remember seeing him in the hallway, and he asked what was wrong with me. Yes, I was drunk, but I can remember that part. I don't handle alcohol well, even if it's a glass of wine, so I'm sure whatever I took was not enough to wipe out my memory. It was just my body system acting out like it usually did whenever I took alcohol. I recognized Adrian the moment I saw him, and then I asked him what he was doing at the party. He said some things I don't remember, and then he offered to hold my hand so I could stand upright. I refused to hold his hand at first, because even though I wasn't thinking straight, I knew that the fact that Adrian was dressed like he wanted to conceal his identity meant that he had bad intentions in mind. But Adrian didn't give up, and he kept pestering me to take his hand. In that process, showed up. I don't remember everything that happened, but I know that Luke got into an argument with Adrian and questioned him because he saw both of us standing alone. I was still upset with him, so I left both of them standing there. I went back to the party and decided to take a seat because I felt like the alcohol was going to make me dizzy. While I was sitting there, Luke came to sit beside me. He was very angry, and then he asked me why I was alone with his father. I explained everything to him, but he was still upset. He then warned me never to speak to his father again. While Luke and I were having the back and forth, Adrian showed up and tried causing a scene. Yep, he told me he pitied me because I was letting a man dictate who I spoke to. He started saying things to get into my head, and he accused Luke of being a controlling husband. He took advantage of the situation because he noticed my drunken state and wanted to use that to his advantage. Luke didn't say anything because the guests were starting to look our way, and he didn't want to embarrass his mother and draw more attention. If you're wondering what happened that made Luke ask for a divorce, then you're in luck, because that's what I'm about to say. Adrian asked me for a dance while I was seated with Luke. Luke told me not to dance with him, and then he walked me to sit down while he went to call the gatekeeper so he could escort Adrian out. After he left, Adrian managed to convince me to dance with him, and he told me he had something important to tell me. Yes, that's all he said to me, and I foolishly took his hand and started dancing with him. I don't really remember what we spoke about while dancing, but I know we didn't do anything inappropriate because I asked his mother just a few hours ago, and she assured me that all we did was dance. She was the one that narrated most of the things that happened to me, but she told me Adrian held my waist, and I didn't shrug his hands off. I danced with him, and while we were dancing, Luke came back with the gatekeeper and saw me dancing with his father. He was very angry, and he tried separating us, but I lashed out at him and called him a control freak in front of everyone. Yes, I did that, and I'm not going to deny it because I remember doing that to him. I let my anger over our argument get to my head, and then I lashed out of him for no reason. I also let myself get swayed by his father's words, and that was wrong. I understand why he's angry because it felt like I chose to listen to his father instead of him. It felt like I picked Adrian over Luke, and I made it seem like I was judging him based on his father's words. He hates his father, and he's told me that almost every day. For me to have let myself get loose like that meant that I used his weakness against him. I'm wrong, and I'm disgusted with myself. According to his mother, Nancy, Luke left the party immediately after I called him a control freak. She told me that he appeared to be very angry, and he didn't even speak to her before he left. That's the first time he's done something like that, and it's my fault. I'm so ashamed right now because I cannot believe that I caused such a scene on such a special day. I let my thoughts get into my head, and I ruined my marriage. How could he forgive me? I know I messed up big time. I'm even embarrassed that Nancy bathed me and helped me change my clothes. According to her, I was quite drunk after everything, and I was puking a lot. I can't believe I started my new year out like this. I'm also quite disappointed because I know it must have also been hard for Nancy to watch her daughter-in-law dance with the same man that left her and her son. The fact that she's suppressing her feelings and helping me out makes my guilt worse. I disrespected her too. I shouldn't have done what I did. I should have controlled my emotions. Getting promoted at work is not more than having a peaceful marriage. I called him a control freak because I thought he was trying to control my life by dictating when I got pregnant. That must have made him very upset. But what's worse is the fact that I danced with his father and let him hold my waist. I don't know why Adrian even did what he did. What does he stand to get by dancing with me? I don't know if he has any ulterior motives because it honestly doesn't make any sense. What does he stand to gain by telling me all those things about his son? He kept coming back and asking for a chance back into his son's life. Why does he think doing that would bring his son closer to him? I hold a grudge, and I plan on making Adrian explain himself. If I didn't mess up by drinking, I would not even give him the time of day to begin with. It's not his fault. I'm the irresponsible adult that allowed things to get out of hand. I'm still at Nancy's place because she advised me not to go see him. She's his mother, and she knows that when he's angry, he likes to have time alone. I also know that about him, and that's why I've not tried going to see him. But barely 6 hours ago, Luke came here and asked to see me. I was very happy because I foolishly thought that he was going to forgive me. I fell on my knees and begged him with tears in my eyes. I told him I was extremely sorry and that I didn't mean to hurt him. At first, he just stood there and didn't say a word, but after some time, he told me he wanted a divorce. I was shocked. In fact, I was beyond shocked because I wasn't expecting that from him. I thought I heard something else, and I asked him to repeat himself again. He did that and said exactly what he said before. I held his clothes and told him I was sorry. I tried everything, but his kind was made up. He told me he wanted a divorce and that he couldn't stand the fact that I teamed up with his father to embarrass him. I tried to make him understand that I wasn't in my right senses, but then he dropped another shocking revelation. He told me he also felt it was best for us to break up because he didn't see the need of staying married to a woman that didn't have the same parental choices like he did. He also demanded an apology to his mother. That was all he said before leaving me alone once again. In other words, he wants to ruin me because there's nothing more hurtful than the thought of losing him. I really hoped things would be right, but I guess it's not happening. I thought he'd forgive me, but he didn't. Do I blame him? Absolutely not. I do not blame him for the things he did because I know he's only reacting to what I did. I'm the one that deserves to be blacked. But I'm selfish. I just can't end my marriage like this. I want to make it work. I want him to forgive me. I don't want my desire to get promoted to get in between our marriage. My husband deserved more and I want to make it up to him. I can't let his vengeful father get in between us, and I can't let my wrong choices ruin our 4 years of knowing each other. I need help, guys. Any ideas would be very much appreciated. I'll appreciate whatever you guys suggest. Just please help me out because I'm tired and I'm giving up. Update. First of all, I want to tell you all that I'm immensely grateful for all you've written and suggested. I never imagined so many suggestions, and I really want to say a big thank you. After updating you all that day, that was on January 1st, I decided to go see Adrian and give him a piece of my mind. I wanted to know why he thought it was right for him to do what he did. I couldn't sleep just thinking about how he had the audacity to hold my waist and dance with me when he could see that I was drunk. It was hard finding his place because I'd never been there before, and I never thought I'd have a reason to go there. But life happened, and I had to ask someone to ask around for the location of his apartment. I finally found it, and the surprising thing was that I saw his wife and 2 children there too. I knew he started his own family because I'd heard Nancy talking about it before. What I just couldn't understand was why he decided to keep tormenting Luke and Nancy when he'd already moved on with his life. Long ago, when I saw him at his apartment, I asked him that, and he told me he was just trying to have his son back because he thought it was unfair that Nancy was the one at the receiving end of his care. Adrian felt like Luke was supposed to give him money now that he's a successful accountant. That's why he kept on coming and trying to get back into Luke's life. He felt like he was being cheated. When I asked him why he held my waist and danced with me, he told me that was his only way of getting Luke's attention. Yes, in other words, Adrian is a big bag of crap. I left his apartment immediately because I knew it was pointless talking to someone that was so entitled to something they didn't ever work hard for. I was very angry, but there was absolutely nothing I could do. I went back to our house, but Luke served me divorce papers instead. While I stayed with Nancy, he got the divorce papers ready. I guess I started my new year with getting divorced. He's not ready to charge his mind even though I'm hurt, I understand. He's a man that holds a grudge on his father. There's nothing I can do to validate my actions that day. He can never unsee his wife picking his father's side and insulting him. Even though we get back together, he'll always remember that day. And then there's the issue of having a child. He's not ready to wait, and I'm not ready now. I tried doing everything you guys suggested, but I've decided to let it go. I know that I am not ready to be a mother, and he's very sure he's ready to be a father. If I get promoted now, we'll have to wait another 2 years, and he's not ready. Nancy strictly believes that we're getting divorced over something very trivial, but there's nothing she can do. Her son is a man of his own, and she cannot question his marital life. It's a sad goodbye, but I had to say it anyway. I'm just thankful we don't work in the same back, because that would have stung. It would have been hard to see him every day, knowing we're going through a divorce. At the end of the day, I take full responsibility for my actions, and I believe that with these lessons I've learned, I'd never act recklessly in the future ever again. I have learned that if you have kids around, you need to always hide things in a very deep and sacred place where they won't get them. You know, my kids are very smart for their age, and the pictures that they found while hunting for their favorite Christmas spy almost ruined everything. You know, it almost tore the family apart. Our Christmas Day mood went from 100% mood to a 0 real quick. I really regret what my past almost did to my family. I am still in disbelief that my deepest and darkest secret, something I had thought I had hidden and even forgot about, would be found by my own children. The worst part was that my husband saw them too. I had left my previous life behind, but I guess every dark and dirty past will always come back and haunt you in the future, if you do not deal with it and be honest about it. I still don't know what to do. Please advise me on this one. I am shattered. What I had thought would be a very good day with the family became the worst and dull day of my life. Now I am on the verge of losing everything because of pictures. I do not know how to deal with this. It's hurting me so much, and my kids no longer look at me the same. What should I do? Let me break it down for you quickly so you can get the picture of what really had transpired. My name is Stephanie, female 28. I am married to David, male 28. Well, David and I got married right after we graduated from college 4 years ago. I can say he is my high school lover. Even though we were not studying in the same high school then, we studied at the same college. We fell in love in a most unexpected way. I mean, he was an IT, the most wanted guy at school, and I was just an ordinary girl who grew up in a not-so-good background. I won't say I am proud of my background and where I am coming from, but it has taught me a lot about who I am and about life. You know, when a person with a bad background as mine says, I have tasted poverty and did some things I'm not proud of, but I did them to survive. And I have also tasted good life with so much happiness and love. So do not think, just because I am now living the life I had always wanted to live, you can easily break me and take me back to where I was. I am now a qualified urologic. I deal with male issues mostly, while I am also running a nonprofit organization for people with a background like mine. My husband and I have beautiful twins who are super naughty but wouldn't trade them for anything. I got them in my first year in college. It was a bit challenging having to focus on your studies while pregnant, especially with twins, but my husband was there throughout the whole pregnancy journey. My twins are now 9 years old, and they are the most precious gift that God has ever given me. So I grew up in a small town of Tupelo in Mississippi. I was raised by a very violent and abusive aunt since my mother was late, and I don't even know my father. I grew up having that space of needing a father's love, attention, and protection. You know, everything that I was going through at home was unbearable to a point that I had to go out there and hustle so that my aunt would stop complaining. It was a very tough time for me, because on the other side, I still had to focus at school and make sure that I passed all my grades, so I would be able to get out of the bad background. Sometimes I would wish my mother was still alive, but she passed on when I was too young. So my aunt took me in. I will always appreciate that because none of the family members wanted to take me in, so my aunt took it upon herself to take me in. A lot had happened when my mother passed on because the other family members had taken my mother's house. Meaning, if my aunt didn't take me in, I would have been a junkie maybe somewhere, sleeping under bridges. When I was in 6th grade, my aunt took me to the brothel that she once owned. I couldn't believe that she would take me to that disgusting place and actually tell me that if I still wanted to live in her house, I would have to meet her halfway and hustle. I first didn't understand what she was talking about. I mean, I was only 13 years. In my mind, I was asking myself, why would Auntie Jade introduce me to that filthy place? I mean, I would have tried other hustling options like selling sweets at school or something, but she wanted me to work at her brothel. I had no choice but to take her offer because she even threatened to kick me out of the house and deprive me food. She told me that as a woman, I had to hustle, so I would not sleep on an empty stomach. I missed my mother every day during my first time in the brothel. My aunt introduced me to some old men, saying that they were my clients. Mind you, that time, I didn't even know what the word client meant. So my aunt wanted me to do the dance for those old men and give them a show. Time passed. When I was 17, I had gotten used to the hustling and I had become a sex worker. I would get clients who needed sexual desires. There were also regulars that would only need my service. I was grateful at the fact that my aunt allowed me to go to school because that was not the life I had planned to have. So I made sure to work my butt off at school, so I would at least get a scholarship to go to college, so I would leave the hellhole. So one day, David was visiting his grandmother in the neighborhood. That was when I actually met him. Well, more like he had moved to live with his grandmother, because I found out about 2 days later that he was going to study at Tupelo High School when my aunt told me that I should play far from him. My aunt had some issues with affording people, I think, because she would always find a way or something bad to say about them. David and I became friends for a year in high school, despite my aunt's disapproval. I didn't tell David about my hustling side. I knew I had to tell him, but I didn't know how to, so I vowed to keep it to myself for as long as I live. I was too ashamed to even share what had been going on at home because I was scared of being judged, and I had thoughts that maybe he would no longer want to be my boyfriend because of my background. My aunt's brothel used to have cameras for safety purposes, so everything we did, even every client we satisfied, we got recorded just in case they wanted to take advantage of us. When I was accepted at William Carey University College of Osteopathic Medicine, I was ecstatic. One, I was glad that I would finally get a chance to live at my aunt's house and chase my goals. Even though my aunt didn't want me to go, saying who would look after the business and take care of his clients if I was not there. That time, I knew that if I didn't stand up for myself and my aunt's abusive behavior, I would never escape, and I needed to chase my dreams. Little did I know that in my first year in college, I would get pregnant and my scholarship was taken away. That was the most heartbreaking episode that I had gone through. Luckily, the peanuts that my aunt would give me after I had finished with my job. I had managed to save them, even though it was not going to be enough for the whole 4 years of study. During that time, I had to focus at school while working as a waitress in one of the nearby restaurants. David was there with me during the whole pregnancy journey, and I appreciated his support and love. Later on in my pregnancy, I had moved in with David. Our relationship had its own fair share of ups and downs, but we managed to get through every circumstance. It was a bit challenging having to take care of the children while focusing at work. I would sometimes slack on something until David suggested that we get a nanny for our kids because we were both in college, so we had to focus. Few years later, we got married during summer holidays. Before we got married, I think a few months before David and I got married, I got a call from my aunt's friend and neighbor, Auntie Haley, telling me that I had to come to my aunt's house she had passed on. I know that I should have felt some kind of hurt, or at least cry, because she had taken me into her home and groomed me, even though it wasn't a very pleasant grooming. But I felt nothing. I wasn't happy, nor sad. Is that even normal? So I told David what Aunt Haley had told me, and to my surprise, he already knew. His grandmother had told him. So we decided to go down to Tupelo for my aunt's burial ceremony. After we came back from the cemetery, Auntie Haley called me aside and gave me a box saying that it had everything that was dear to my aunt and some letters that she had left for me. I didn't understand why my aunt would leave letters for me, but I brushed that off. Then a few months later, David and I got married. It was the happiest day of my life. That time, our children had just turned 4 years old. They grew up to be the most precious thing that had ever happened to our lives. I still thank God every day for giving me a chance to see them grow every day. I somehow wished my mother was present to see me walking down the aisle with my best friend, my lover, and the father of my kids. Life became gloomy and very bright for my little family. I also got a chance to be an obstetrician, which was what I had always wanted to be, especially after my past job that my aunt had introduced me to. I found it more important and interesting to know more about women's problems and their health. I didn't get that chance when I was still living with my aunt, but now I do have a chance to help those who went through what I had also been through. So my family, my husband, and my kids came up with a tradition that every Christmas, kids will get a chance to hunt for their Christmas spy every Christmas morning. We started that tradition when they were 3 years old, and we saw that they enjoyed hunting for a Christmas, so we continued doing it for them. My kids love running around. They are too active, and when they hunt for something, they make sure to look everywhere. That time we had gotten a new house, so they were not used to it much. And that time we had invited David's family. It was going to be their first Christmas with us in our new house. You know, it didn't come to me that I should move the box from where I had put it. I didn't even get a clue that I should move it. Another thing, ever since I had gotten it, I had never found time to open it. I don't know why, but I didn't feel like opening it. It was like I was angry or holding a grudge against my aunt, I don't know. Christmas Day came, I was preparing for the Christmas lunch, and the kids went wherever they had gone around the house. And I knew that if they get quiet, they would be up to nothing good. My kids can be mischievous a lot, so if you don't see them in more than 20 minutes or 30, you will have to look for them wherever they are. While I was rummaging through our storage room to find the kids and to check if they found the jingle, little did I know that an unexpected twist awaited the family. As I was searching for the mischievous kids, I found them in the storage room looking at some things. So as I went further in to see what they were looking at, I stumbled upon a box labeled Old Memories. Curiosity got the better of me, and she decided to take a peek inside. Mind you, the whole family had been looking for the kids also, because the house became so quiet without them. So as I went further in, I got the shock of my life. To my shock and dismay, I discovered a forgotten box of old photographs. As I leafed through the pictures, I realized that they were not the innocent family snapshots I had expected. Instead, they were explicit and inappropriate images that should never have been mixed with our cherished memories. I had long forgotten about the box that Aunt Haley once gave me, so the kids had opened it and found a lot of pictures and discs, along with a couple of letters that my aunt had written for me. My eyes were wide open and heart pounding. I realized the gravity of the situation. I knew I had to act quickly to prevent Lily and Ethan, the twins, from discovering more inappropriate photos. But I was already late. With a heavy heart, I carefully packed the box away and decided to just leave the room. I was embarrassed, humiliated, and shattered because the things I had thought I had buried with my past were actually catching up on me, in front of my husband's family and my kids. I didn't know how to react to my kids. They were looking at me with different eyes, of which I understood, because if I was the one finding my mother's inappropriate pictures, I would be traumatized. David came after me and asked about the pictures. I was lost in words. I didn't even know where to start explaining the ordeal. I knew I had to come clean to him about everything, with the hope that he would understand. The whole Christmas day got ruined. As much as the family tried to bring up the spark and laughter on the table so that the day would continue going smoothly, it was no longer the same as before they had seen the inappropriate pictures. I also got uncomfortable because I had told David that we would speak in the evening when we are alone. So, that evening, after putting the kids to bed, I sat down with David, his face filled with concern. I started sharing the shocking discovery with him, tears welling up in my eyes. I told him everything about my past and the things that I had to do to survive at my aunt's house. David's initial reaction mirrored my expectations. I had expected him to be angry and throw tantrums, but that didn't happen. Instead, he got angry at the fact that I continued doing the job that my aunt wanted me to do even when we were in a relationship. He just left the room and went out. That day, he didn't even sleep in our bedroom. I was heartbroken and had so many questions in my mind, like why would my aunt tell Aunt Haley to give me that box knowing very well that I was in a relationship with David and we were engaged? I didn't believe how cruel my aunt could get, and to think of how I would look at my kids after what they had discovered. The pictures of me with a grown man who looked old enough to be my father. The pictures of me dancing for those men with big potbellies. To the pictures of me in the room with one of the clients that were my regulars, busy satisfying his sexual desires. It was too much to deal with, and I had told myself that I was definitely losing my husband. The following day, I had locked myself up in the bedroom. I was too ashamed to face the family and my kids. I didn't even want to see their reactions when they saw me, because I was convinced that they would look at me with disgusting eyes. So David came into the bedroom, and he wanted us to talk. Mind you, that time my mind had already told me that I was losing my husband. The divorce word kept ringing in my head, and it was like I was losing my mind. I had never thought of myself losing my husband after so many years we had been together and after all the struggles we had faced. So before he said anything, I told him that I understood his behavior and would understand if he wanted to leave me because of my past. As I was saying that, tears were streaming down my face. My heart was breaking into many pieces. But to my surprise, he didn't judge me. Instead, he told me that he had expected me to come clean to him since he is my partner, but the past would never determine our purpose and goals. My heart was at ease a little when I heard him say that. Then together we grappled with the best course of action. From that day, We both knew that we had to protect our children from any inappropriate content they accidentally stumbled upon. I know it was careless of me to leave the box in the storage room, while I knew that my kids were naughty and mischievous. So after much discussion, we decided to seek professional guidance for the kids. We contacted a family therapist who specializes in child psychology, hoping to navigate the difficult conversation with Lily and Ethan in a safe and supportive manner. The following day, me, my husband, and kids gathered in the therapist's office. With a calm and empathetic approach, the therapist guided David and I on how to address the situation with our children. Together, we crafted a plan to explain the unexpected discovery while emphasizing the importance of personal boundaries and appropriate content. In a gentle and age-appropriate manner, my husband and I sat down with Lily and Ethan to have an open conversation. We had to do it earlier than later. So we explained that while searching for Jingle, that they ended up giving up on finding it, and explained about the ordeal that they accidentally stumbled upon some pictures that were not meant for them to see. We assured our children that they were safe and loved and wanted to protect them from anything that might confuse or upset them. We taught them a lot and even told them about my past, which was in the pictures. My husband told them to not look at me in a different way or have thoughts that their mother, me, was the person they saw in the pictures. Lily and Ethan listened intently, their innocent eyes filled with confusion and concern. My husband and I reassured them that the inappropriate content had nothing to do with their family and how they should react around me, and we were doing everything they could to keep them safe from any harm of the world. We continued to emphasize the importance of trust and encouraged our children to be open and honest about any confusing or uncomfortable situations they might encounter. I love my children so much, and it would kill me in my grave to hear or see that they were treated the way I was treated by my aunt. I appreciated my husband a lot. You know, sometimes it's hard not having a father figure in your life to guide you and protect you through all life challenges. I didn't have that chance to have a relationship with my father, to a point that I agreed and submitted to everything that my aunt would say, and somehow got used to it. But my children had a chance to have a father who loved them and would do anything for them in their lives. That made my heart be at peace. I was happy that I got to share all about my past with my family, and we plan to move on and continue to be a happy and loving family. Over time, our family grew even closer as we supported one another through the emotional aftermath. We had set a meeting with David's family and shared with them everything that happened in my past. The family was devastated by the news and couldn't believe that my aunt would do that, but I was glad that they didn't judge me, but our relationship grew closer and showed me lots of love and support. The whole decided to move forward with their lives and somehow forget about the inappropriate pictures. We would continue to support each other, cherish our time together, and never forget the importance of open communication and trust. We, my husband and I, attended therapy sessions together, discussing our feelings and fears openly, and learned valuable tools to cope with the unexpected challenges we would face in the future. As the years passed, the family healed, our bond fortified by our shared experience. My husband and I became advocates for open communication and created a safe space for our children to discuss any concerns they may have. Together, we transformed a difficult situation into an opportunity for growth and resilience. That was when I started a nonprofit organization for women who went through what I had also been through with my husband's help and support, of course. I mean, we grow through what we have been through, right? So why not help other women heal and grow from what they are going through? The unintended discovery became a pivotal moment in our lives, forever reminding us of the importance of trust, love, and the strength of our family. Through our united efforts, my husband, myself, Lily, and Ethan crafted a future filled with resilience, understanding, and the unwavering support that would guide us through life's unexpected twists and turns. We realized that the true spirit of Christmas was not found in material possessions or decorations, but in the love and support of our family and friends. And even though we had faced a terrible ordeal, we knew that we would come out stronger on the other side. Without any judgments, please share with me how I can heal from this, because as much as my family and I found help mentally, but I still see that my husband hadn't forgotten about it. but he is trying so hard to hide that. What should I do?